It's now time for your favorite in-depth basketball show with the myths, the legends, Nardog, and Raindrops Goulet!
Raptors win, make it 10 straight victories, a new franchise best. Welcome to Full Court Press. This is Justin Raindrops Goulet, and I am feeling fantastic. I'm joined by the Nardog, David Bernardi, of course. How's it going, Nardog?
It's going really well, sir. How are you?
I'm amazing. I just watched the Raptors beat the Knicks, a team that I've never been a huge fan of. Final score was 103-93, 10 straight victories for Toronto. How do you feel about that? It's a new franchise record.
It only took about 15 years to do, but an interesting fact, there's only 5 teams in the NBA that still haven't cracked it. Well, now 4 teams, now the Raptors, succeeded in that 10 straight win.
Yeah, it's a huge kudos to the Toronto Raptors. They're going to go far this year. I think this is going to be the season. I'm just hoping that they make it past the first round of the playoffs, right?
They're a much better team than last year. That's obvious. And like the team reminds me so much of a couple seasons ago, but with a lot more talent and a lot better bench.
Yeah, that's a big point to bring up. Their bench has been huge this entire season. They've got guys like Biyombo, Patterson. Terrence Ross has been playing really well lately.
I was watching the TNT feed, and Fratello, Marv Albert, and Grant Hill, they were loving the Raptors bench. They said they're pretty much stacked.
You know, that's a good point to bring up because their bench, you can actually rely on the Toronto Raptors bench because some teams, their bench is a little weak and they focus more on the superstars and the starting 5. But Dwayne Casey can sit some of his starters and he doesn't really have to worry about the bench blowing a big lead or anything like that. The guys like the ones that I've mentioned, and also someone like Corey Joseph can come in and get the job done. They've got a really strong bench.
And breaking news, they can actually rely on Terrence Ross now.
How do you feel about that? Because as we know, you're not the biggest fan of Terrence Ross. Is he kind of swaying things in your favor now?
As I mentioned last week in the episode, he's playing what I always wanted him to do. Hit those threes and play D. He's doing it up.
Exactly. It's almost like he's heard, and I've said this before, it's like he's heard all the naysayers kind of bash his playing, and he's trying to prove them wrong. And I'm happy for him because he's got a lot of talent.
He's been reading all my tweets, and he's just been studying them and just look, and he couldn't take it anymore. He had to please the Nard Dog.
You know what? You're helping out Terrence Ross's game, and you're making him a better player.
Yeah, it's all because of me.
All because of the Nard Dog.
I'm just joshing.
Well, you got to say that we're talking about their bench. Their bench has been very strong, but of course, so much talent and so much of their success, there's been a huge hand in that from DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. And of course, DeMar DeRozan, today, it was announced that DeMar will be joining Kyle Lowry. No doubt about that. He will officially be joining Kyle Lowry in the 2016 NBA All-Star Game.
According to me, he got announced to the All-Star team a couple hours before it was announced.
Yeah.
Some Nardstradamus.
The Nardstradamus. Right on. What do you think about DeMar getting called up to the NBA All-Star Game? No doubt in my mind. He had to make the team.
Well, as you know, I've told you, when he did on draft night, I basically said, I will love it if the Raptors end up with DeMar DeRozan. And here we are, 7 years later, he's a 2-time All-Star, and the Raptors are going to go to the playoffs for a 3rd straight year, led by that man.
It's great to see. He's fully embracing that role of being the leader of the Toronto Raptors, along with Kyle Lowry, because they are, if you look at their roster, they are the 2 official captains of the Toronto Raptors. They definitely lead the charge for the Raptors' success, and you could see that in their play and their leadership, and you can tell that they're good friends on and off the court. Their interviews, their post-game interviews are hilarious to watch because you can tell that they're buddies.
Even tonight, DeRozan's getting interviewed by Eric Smith, and then you see Lowry coming up from behind, and he basically steals the mic. It was hilarious.
Oh, it is hilarious, and it's such a joy to see because it's so nice to see this team that struggled for so many years. It's so nice to see them finally thriving. And they're the second best team in the Eastern Conference. They're one of the best teams in the NBA. And we're not just saying that because we're huge fans of theirs. We're saying that because it's fact. It's statistical fact.
And we both critiqued this team for many years. We've been through the highs and the lows, and we've been on 3 straight years of highs. Gotta love it.
Oh, you gotta love it. It's fantastic to see. Now, DeMar, he's an all-star reserve. Now, do you want to take a look at some of the other all-star reserves? Looking at the Eastern Conference, we've got guys like Jimmy Butler, second all-star selection. What do you think about Butler being called up?
Oh, that was guaranteed. He should have been starting.
Yeah.
Yep, that's obvious selection right there.
And first all-star selection, Andre Drummond. Of course, no question.
Like I said last week, when a guy's averaging, or not averaging, but when he's getting all these 20 rebound games, double-doubles, he's an obvious all-star.
Well, he's having a career year in both points at 17.3 points per game and rebounds 15.2 rebounds per game.
Wow.
Yeah, unbelievable. Now, joining DeMar, Jimmy Butler, and Andre Drummond, we've got Chris Bosh, who we called last week as a staple to be an all-star reserve.
Hey now, Chris Bosh back in Toronto.
Back in Toronto. Yeah, well, the last time that Chris Bosh started in an all-star game, he was wearing a Toronto Raptors jersey.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, so it comes full circle.
And who else we got? Paul Millsap?
Yep, Paul Millsap of the Atlanta Hawks having a really good year.
He's just always a guy you can rely on. Front court. This is his third straight all-star game.
Yep, third straight all-star game. Totally, you can rely on him. When you talk about Paul Millsap, that's a good word to describe him. Reliable.
Indeed.
And John Wall.
Yeah, John Wall, his Wizards are 20 and 24 on the season, but without him, they're basically a lottery team.
Yeah, that's without John Wall and Bradley Beal.
Yeah, and Bradley Beal, he's been out for 20 plus games, so they're a playoff team.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
It's just injuries that have kept that team from the playoffs this year.
And rounding out the Eastern Conference All-Star reserves is a Boston Celtic, Mr. Isaiah Thomas.
Did he come out of retirement?
No, Nard Dog. I'm talking about modern-day Isaiah Thomas of the Boston Celtics.
You know what I love about? That guy's a sixth man.
Yeah, he is a sixth man and a very strong sixth man, and now he's representing the Boston Celtics in the All-Star game. It's cool to see that, and it's cool to see the Boston Celtics doing pretty well this season, because I've always liked the Celtics, although they're Atlantic Division rivals.
Oh, they've been on a roll for the past year now. How they made the playoffs last year, in that big run, and here they are again. They're a potential Raptors matchup in the playoffs first round.
Yeah, you never know what could happen, and it's good to see Isaiah Thomas finally getting that recognition that he's deserved for quite some time now, because he's just getting better and better each and every year, in my opinion.
Yeah, you never really see a bench player make the All-Star game. Maybe Ginobili. That's all I can think of right now.
Yeah, so that's pretty big to see a six-man actually make the All-Star team. It's a cool thing to see. So I like this Eastern Conference reserves list. Any snubs? Who do you think should have? Who are any names that come to mind in the Eastern Conference?
Oh, Paul Gasol, 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, but there's not that much big men on the East.
No, not really. And you look at the starting lineup as well, it's not really filled with bigs. I think the three big men, you could say, on the reserves list for the Eastern Conference All-Stars, of course, Andre Drummond, Chris Bosh, and Paul Millsap.
Yeah, and Millsap's, he's not a big guy, but he's a power forward, but yeah.
He's a small power forward.
Yeah. And yeah, it's crazy. What is happening to the NBA?
Yeah, we're playing small ball now, Nard Dog. So do you think Pau Gasol is the biggest snub for the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. Because, I don't know, you can't... Kevin Love? I don't know.
Possibly. I'd go with Pau Gasol over Kevin Love. You can't deny the fact that he's having a really good year because he's averaging about 15 points and 10 rebounds and 2 blocks per game. He's one of 2 players in the NBA who's filling out those stats, the other being Anthony Davis.
And here we go, Western Conference reserves.
Yeah, Anthony Davis, he in fact made the cut, having a year, although kind of plagued with some injuries, but he made the Western Conference All-Star reserves nonetheless.
Yeah, I said in the last episode that he probably shouldn't get in because his team sucks this year. But he's a future Hall of Famer. Yep, I'm saying it right now.
You're calling it.
Anthony Davis is a future Hall of Famer, and you gotta give him the nod.
Yeah, so Anthony Davis, he's going to be joined by Chris Paul, of course.
Yeah.
One of the best point guards in the league. LaMarcus Aldridge of the Spurs.
That was interesting, but go on.
James Harden. We know your thoughts about James Harden.
Yeah.
What do you think about DeMarcus Cousins?
That man should be starting.
Yeah, I know, right? So of course he's going to be named an All-Star reserve. And rounding out the Western Conference All-Star squad, it's Draymond Green and Klay Thompson. So we've got 3 Warriors on the Western Conference team, the big 3. Steph Curry starting, of course. Yeah, Green and Thompson as expected.
What do you think of LaMarcus Aldridge getting put in?
It's a little surprising because there are some other people that may be more deserving, but he is averaging about 16 points per game and 9 rebounds. So he is having a solid year. But it's surprising to see some snubs on the Western Conference, like someone like Damian Lillard, 24.3 points per game, 7.1 assists per game. Both of those are career highs.
Lillard already said that he's not going to participate in any All-Star festivities if he's not selected to the team. So there goes Mr. Lillard.
Yeah, Lillard is going to be taking the weekend off. And you know what? He totally deserves to be a Western Conference All-Star. With those numbers and just his play out on the court, it would make sense to have him on the Western Conference All-Star team. I would take out LaMarcus Aldridge and put in Damian Lillard.
You look at the Blazers roster and you just say, how is this team winning this much of games? And it's obviously David Lillard. He's killing it.
Yeah, he's doing a great job helping out the Portland Trail Blazers. He's doing fantastic this season. He's playing some of the best basketball of his life because to those 24.3 points per game and 7.1 assists per game, those are both career highs.
What about Dirk Nowitzki, your boy?
Dirk. I would honestly maybe take... it's tough to say. With the roster that is in there, I'd throw Lillard on the team over Dirk Nowitzki. As big of a fan as I am of Dirk Nowitzki, I think Lillard would be more deserving than Dirk Nowitzki. So I would swap out LaMarcus Aldridge and throw in Damian Lillard. And I was thinking maybe take out James Harden and throw in Dirk Nowitzki.
Yeah.
Because everyone else, Green, Thompson, Cousins, Chris Paul, I'd keep in there. Maybe you take out Anthony Davis and put in Dirk Nowitzki?
Yeah, that's what I was saying in the last episode about him not being an All-Star, but I don't know, what can you do? And we've discussed this the past couple days. The Eastern Conference coach.
Okay, so that's a little bit of a sore subject. It's kind of a head-scratcher, and I know Matt Devlin and Leo Routens were talking about it during the Raptors broadcast, their game against the Knicks that I was just watching, and they raised a lot of points that they were talking a lot about, like what we've discussed, and I think that the Eastern Conference All-Stars coach should be Dwayne Casey, because the All-Star game is in Toronto. If not for that reason alone, the Raptors are in second place. They're 31-15, correct?
They've proved... Casey has proved enough that he should be the coach. I don't get the NBA's logic in having a guy who's 2-1 in his career being the coach.
It's weird because there's those crazy stipulations because you think that in the Western Conference, Greg Popovich is the head coach. Yeah. His team is in second place. Dwayne Casey is the head coach of the Raptors. His team is in second place. So if you've got Greg Popovich coaching, then Dwayne Casey should coach. But the only reason that Popovich is coaching and not Steve Kerr, or Luke Walton for that matter, but mainly Steve Kerr, is because you can't have the same coach coaching 2 years in a row for the All-Star game. That's a stipulation put out by the NBA, which I think is a little ridiculous because if your team is number 1 in the league 2 years in a row, that shouldn't take you away from being the head coach of the All-Star game.
It's stuff like this that just gives the NBA a bad name.
It does, because Dwayne Casey, there is no doubt in my mind that he is more deserving to be the head coach of the Eastern Conference All-Stars over Tyronn Lue. And nothing
Tyron,
against...
Tyrone Lue? Tyron? I don't even know.
No.
Of course I know who Tyronn Lue is, but he had a scrub-like NBA career.
And who knows? Who knows? Lue could be a very good coach. We don't know that yet because he's only...
You mean LeBron James?
Yeah, you've mentioned that a few times, that LeBron is more the head coach than Lue.
Think about this. Think about all the coaches that have coached LeBron James in his career. Paul Silas, he lasted, I think, 1 season. We got Mike Brown. We know how that turned out. And then, what was it? We got Spoelstra. Yeah, he's a good coach, but a lot of people thought that LeBron was pulling the strings there. I don't know.
That's not too crazy of a theory because LeBron is a superstar. LeBron is the top dog in the league, in the world when it comes to basketball. So it would not surprise me if he was the one pulling the strings. But the fact of the matter is that Lue has 3 games under his belt. As of the day, as of right now, Lue only has 3 games under his belt. And you never know. He could lead the Cavaliers to the NBA Finals. We don't know that. But we know that Casey has done an incredible job with taking the Raptors and bringing them to that 31-15 record, second place in the Eastern Conference, 10 straight victories.
This season alone, he just passed Sam Mitchell for the all-time winningest coach in Raptors history.
Exactly.
There's too much of a reason to have Dwayne Casey coach the Eastern All-Star this year.
Mm-hmm. And even just taking away the fact, just because if anyone's thinking, oh, it's just because it's in Toronto. No, it's not just because it's in Toronto. It's because he is a deserving coach for this role, for this position, to be the coach of the Eastern Conference All-Stars. Now, if David Blatt was still the coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers and David Blatt was named the head coach, that would make a little bit more sense because he spent the entire season basically with the Cleveland Cavaliers compared to Lue, who's been with them for 3 games as a head coach.
Yeah, I know the NBA was in a conundrum. I can't believe I'm actually saying that word. Because the Cavs, for some reason, fired David Blatt. Well, there's a lot of reasons. But, but come on, it's like I said, it's weird.
Again, it's not the worst thing in the world. Because it's just the All-Star game, but the thing is, it's the first All-Star game held outside of the United States. First time it's being held in Toronto. Even though it's the All-Star game, it's this big spectacle. This is a big deal for the city of Toronto and for Canada basketball.
Yeah, and why not have 3 people from the organization represent the East? That'd be fun.
Exactly. It would be cool to see Dwayne Casey finally getting that respect and that recognition that he fully deserves.
I mean, 60 years ago, the first NBA basketball game was played in Toronto.
Yep, the Toronto Huskies.
Against the New York Knickerbockers.
Yep. Just like the matchup we saw tonight, although the story was a little bit different tonight.
Yes, indeed.
Now, just stepping aside from that, stepping over it, if you will. Get that reference? Iverson, stepping over Lue. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Again, nothing against Lue as a coach because we don't know what he can do as a head coach. But final thoughts, Dwayne Casey should be the head coach of the Eastern Conference All-Stars.
Maybe Tyronn Lue has a heart and he just steps down.
Could be. You never know. We'll see what happens before All-Star Weekend goes February 12th to 14th that weekend. Now, speaking of the All-Star festivities, it's been announced by the NBA who the halftime performer is going to be. Did you hear about that? That's something that's caused a little bit of calamity over Twitter and over social media.
A funny thing went on in my head when I heard that. At first, I was like,
you thought it...
Sting the wrestler is going to be performing at halftime, and is he going to call out LeBron James from the Raptors? Is this how it's going to go down?
I think some people would prefer that than...
Are we going to have a Sting and Dwayne Casey versus LeBron James and Tyronn Lue tag team match?
At WrestleMania, book it right now. Let's go.
Let's do it up.
That would be awesome. But no, it's not going to be Sting the wrestler, which would be
Awesome.
great to see. And yes, that thought crossed my mind too, Nard Dog. You're not the only one. What are your thoughts on Sting of the Police?
I find it. He's awesome. Sting's great, but I find it not awesome, but like funny how it's not Drake.
That's what a lot of people are saying. A lot of comments that I read on Twitter and throughout Facebook is that it should have been a Canadian artist, if
Yeah,
not Drake, just a Canadian artist. Again, because this is the first All Star event in Toronto, you could make this huge and make it all Canadian with some international influences and American influences thrown in there, but primarily Canadian because it's the first All Star weekend held in Toronto.
yeah. But you think Drake being the team's global ambassador that he'd be performing at halftime?
Drake will be involved.
Oh, for sure.
Drake has to be involved. He's going to be all over All Star Weekend, but the official halftime entertainment will be Sting. Maybe we'll see a Sting Drake team up, which would be super weird, but kind of cool at the same time. Just picture this. Close your eyes and picture Sting serenading the Air Canada Centre crowd with Hotline, his rendition of Hotline Bling.
What's that? What's that song Sting has? It's I think it's like something desert.
Desert Rose.
Just a collab of that and Drake.
So it could be oh, Hotline Rose, Desert
Hotline Rose.
or Desert Bling, if you will.
Desert Blink. I'm dying over here.
Oh, wonderful! I want to see that so bad. We'll keep our fingers crossed that that happens. I read some comments that people were a little ticked off. Even former Toronto Mayor Rob Ford chimed in, and he was kind of bashing the NBA for not choosing a Canadian performer, which makes sense. It would be cool to see a Canadian performer, but
Don't you think it? Wouldn't the Raptors be the ones who choose the artist? I don't know.
I don't think so. It's probably approved by the NBA.
Yeah.
All that organizing the NBA All Star Weekend, it's probably approved by the NBA board or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's cool. Like it's cool that Sting is gonna be performing at halftime because it.
Well, it's better
Although,
than Ellie Furtado.
what about Carly Rae Jepsen? Could have had tons of Canadian talent, but at the same
Was she from
time,
a Friday song?
no, that's Rebecca Black.
Oh. I don't. They all sound the same these days.
But yeah, so Sting performing at halftime. It's not the end of the world. Whatever. It's a musical performance at halftime.
He's still a beauty.
Yeah, it's still Sting. At the end of the day, it is still Sting.
It's just a really random choice.
It's super random. That's the biggest thing. It's a little bit of a head scratcher.
It feels like something Canada would do.
Well, I'm sure he's going to put on a great show. All Star Weekend is going to be tons of fun in Toronto. I'm looking forward to watching everything. I wish I could be there in person, but unfortunately that won't happen. But it's all good. I'm going to be watching everything going on. And I'm just so excited for Kyle Lowry starting for the second year in a row and for DeMar DeRozan. Second time being named an All-Star, so well deserving. And although Dwayne Casey won't be coaching the Eastern Conference All-Stars, it is great to see DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry representing the Raptors
It'll
2016
it'll
All-Star
be
game.
it'll be a great moment when they put a Lowry and DeRozan on together. They're gonna get a standing ovation from the crowd. I cannot wait for it.
It's going to be great, and it's a historic weekend because, again, it's the first All-Star festivities being held outside of the States.
I'm literally getting chills just thinking about that.
It's huge, and it's something that I've been kind of dreaming about ever since I became a Raptors fan and started watching All Star Weekend and really getting into it and just hoping that one day the NBA would come out and announce, hey, we're having NBA All Star Weekend in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It's huge. Goosebumps.
It's so special.
It's really special and it's going to be a blast. It's going to be an awesome weekend. Even with, we can talk as much as we want about Casey being snubbed as coach of the Eastern Conference All-Stars. We could talk as much.
He'll still be there.
He'll still be there for sure. We could talk as much about like players getting snubbed from the roster, but what's done is done, and now we just got to look forward. I am psyched for NBA All-Star Weekend. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yep, it's It's going to be a great time, a great old Nardosh time. Nardosh? I always pull off these random words that just make no sense.
Because you're so excited. And it's such a good time to be a fan of basketball. What a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive.
I can't find that song on YouTube or anywhere.
I know. You have to go to a Raptors game and watch their entrance.
I'm just going to go the remaining Raptors games for the season just to hear that song.
Sounds good.
What a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive, Nard Dog. Well, I think we've pretty much covered everything looking towards NBA All-Star Weekend. Any final thoughts?
Just congrats to DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, and the Raptors. A huge week. 10 straight wins. 2 Raptors go to the All-Star game. It's a beautiful time to be a Raptor fan.
Yeah, great times in Raptorland. I'm so psyched, and I'm so happy to see it. This team doing so well, and it's huge for Canadian basketball. It's just great to see.
Yeah, of course we'd like to talk about other NBA teams, but we have to give respect to our hometown team.
Exactly. You know, I'm never gonna deny that I'm not a huge homer. I will always be a Raptors fan. They're always gonna be my team.
Yeah. To the day we die.
Till the day we die. Well, Nard Dog, if people want to chat with you about All-Star Weekend, your thoughts about everything going on in February, where can they find you online?
You can find me on the Twitter at David Bernardi 7.
You made the 7 a little fancy there, eh?
Just at David Bernardi 7.
Okay, right on.
I cited 7 too many times, so they probably thought like David Bernardi 777. It's just 1 7.
Just so we're clear, it's at David Bernardi 7.
And you, sir?
You can find me online on Instagram and the Twitter at Justin Goulet 21. So chat with us, get involved with Full Court Press, check out our Facebook page and the YouTube page. You can catch old episodes on the YouTube page.
Yeah, our Facebook page is just type in Full Court Press FCP and you'll find it.
It's growing. Thanks to you. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate the support.
It's been lovely.
Yeah, it's been absolutely lovely. It's always great to chat about basketball with you, Nard Dog.
And you too, Raindrops.
Thank you, sir. Well, until the next episode of Full Court Press, thanks so much for tuning in. Again, really appreciate the support. Keep the basketball movement alive and strong. Keep on playing, talking about it, watching it, and supporting it.
Yeah, well, having a time.
Till next time, I'm Justin Raindrops Goulet.
And I'm the Nard Dog, David Bernardi.
We'll catch you later.
Cheers.
You've just been hit with Full Court Press. Courtesy of the men, the myths, the legends, Nard Dog, and Raindrops Goulet.
Look what's going on.